Hello, my name is Jacob Hillhouse, and I am still arguing on the side that the United Nations is a vehicle for world peace and cooperation. I would like to address Kyla Jones's argument. I would first like to start by saying that I agree with a lot of the things that she posed in her argument, and a lot of the things that were mentioned in the video. Obviously, we can't overlook the failure of the United Nations when it comes to adequately dealing with genocide. That could be said for numerous ones, as she mentioned in the video: Rwanda, Darfur, terrible atrocities such as that. This cannot be overlooked or easily forgotten, and I appreciate that Kyla mentioned this in her video, and for having the boldness to challenge this ideology. Although I don't necessarily have a response to why the United Nations does not adequately address genocide, I do have a response for why it still is a vehicle for world peace and cooperation. Yes, the nations in the United Nations have their own agendas and often act in their own best interest, just because that's the way that's been naturally occurring since its creation. We even saw that in the League of Nations, which obviously failed worse. So despite all these major flaws and fundamental problems in the United Nations, it is still the greatest path to world peace, because not only does it work on peacekeeping, it has this idea of peace building, which we kind of learned about this previous week. This idea of rebuilding after a war has happened, after a genocide has happened. And although that's not the most easy solution, nor is it the best solution, it is the most viable solution. I don't think there's any way a organization could completely bring about world peace, or if that's even attainable, just in general. But the overall idea of the United Nations is to rebuild these countries that have been devastated. And as I stated earlier, we're not necessarily here to talk about the past failures of the United Nations or the past miscomings of the group, but to discuss whether or not it is a viable option to achieve world peace and cooperation through world building. As I said in my last video, the work of the United Nations goes far beyond just trying to prevent wars, education, fighting climate change, really ensuring that the places that have been affected by war and poverty the most are the ones that are alleviated. And I think that Jones's argument kind of overlooks that fact and instead looks over its failures in the 1990s. I would also like to address her talking about the Security Council. Yes, the Security Council consisting of 5 members, and I spoke on this earlier. They have their own agendas, just naturally, but overall, it's just the easiest way to negotiate and regulate such a large organization. And of course, there are the other non-committed spots that are rotated over a period of several years. So yes, it has many flaws, the United Nations, and I definitely agree with that and see the argument that is presented. I do not agree with it necessarily, and I still believe that the United Nations is a path for us to achieve world peace and global cooperation. Thank you.